Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Lifestyle CEO Show. I'm your host, Donna Maria, the original Lifestyle CEO, and you have arrived at the place on your internet dial where we empower you to break all the rules, build your own corporate ladder, and create the life you love. Today's show is sponsored by the Handmade Beauty Network and our feature member of the week, Earth Mama Angel Baby. Earth Mama Angel Baby provides organic and natural body care products for moms and babies, and they have got some great Mother's Day stuff on their website ready for the plucking right now, and they can ship in time for Mother's Day this weekend. Learn more at handmadebeauty.com or earthmamaangelbaby.com. You know, the Lifestyle CEO Show is always here to provide you with relevant information that will help you grow and prosper as a small business owner. And today, of course, is no exception. We're going to be talking to an expert in estate planning about the issue of family, business, and estate planning when it comes to creating and ordering your personal affairs in the event of your death or disability as a small business owner. What happens to your business? Does it get divided up in terms of its assets according to state law? How can you create your own plan so that if something happens to you, your business can continue beyond your disability or your demise? We're going to be talking to an expert in estate planning, in fact, one of the country's foremost estate planning experts for families, about that in just a little bit. And you know, today's issue of the small business section of the Wall Street Journal has a really great article about this. I encourage you to take a look at it. It's called Sibling Rivalries. Passing along a family business is often tricky, it says. It's even trickier when some of the heirs work for the company and some don't. And this is just a really short article to kind of give you some of the issues and kind of crystallize some of the issues that you need to be concerned about. In this particular case, the owner of the business was actually, I'm not sure if he passed away or if he was preparing his estate, but he had several children, and not all of them actually worked in the business. And so the question was, as he was planning his estate, what should happen to the business's assets and whether he should divide them up equally among all of his children or whether he should divide them up so that the children that were actually participating in the business today should get some of the business when he passed away, or whether some of the children who weren't participating in the business should be able to get some of the voting rights and decision-making capabilities with respect to the business. As you might imagine, this could create a whole bunch of sticky problems if it's not taken care of in advance of this business owner's death. So he's trying to take care of it right now before that happens so everybody can be on the same page and the business can move forward without missing a beat if something happens to him. One of the other great things about, by the way, if you guys don't read the Wall Street Journal every day, then you should at least read it on Mondays. The small business section of the Wall Street Journal comes out every Monday, and it is always packed with information, questions and answers by some of their columnists, and articles that are really relevant to small businesses, and the one I just talked about is one of those. Another one that I think is really great that just happens to be in there today is a wonderful article on how you as a small business owner can multiply your revenue streams so that the business is not always dependent on you being there. Think about it. Let's say you manufacture products or provide some kind of service. Maybe you're an attorney, maybe you're an accountant or a public relations professional. There's only so many hours of the day that you can work. And if you're manufacturing products, of course, as one person, you can only manufacture so many of those products at one time. Well, coupled with that issue is, of course, you want your business to continue after you're no longer there. So today, while you are manufacturing products or providing services, it's a good idea to think in terms of the long run and how you are going to get your products to market if you can no longer manufacture them. Perhaps you just, as you age, you get tired and you don't want to work so much anymore. You don't want to manufacture the same amount of products as you always have been in the past. Or unexpectedly, you may have a physical issue that you have to deal with that prevents you from actually being in your manufacturing area or providing the service that you provide. How are you going to take care of that? This is a really cool article about a woman in New York City who is a fitness expert, and she offers fitness classes, and she's nearly 40 years old, and the article talks about how at the level of fitness instruction that she's involved in today, she realizes that she's not going to be able to power box and kickbox and hop up and down with weights in her hands for an indefinite period of time, and that at some point, as fit as she is going to have to look at how she's going to support herself after she is no longer able to be in the gym actually giving classes. And so right now, today, as we speak, she is not only giving classes, but she is also preparing her business for the time beyond which she will not actually be providing classes. She's training other individuals to teach classes under her brand. She's also working with some potential investors to talk about the creation of videos, DVDs, perhaps doing some at-home shopping. She is working with companies that can help her finance the construction or the rental, one or the other or both, of some fitness studios that she can actually own under her brand name. And this article is just a really good article, no matter what it is that you're providing, be it a product or a service, to kind of make you think along those lines, because the businesses that survive are going to be the ones where the business owners actually, as they're generating revenue today, making products and selling products or offering services, going to have to be thinking of along the lines of what's going to happen in the future. And one of the really great quotes from this article is from a woman at Smith Barney who says, regardless of the strength of the founder of the business, the key to a successful business development plan is a strong management team that can remove the actual product from the person that's making it. That's not a direct quote, but that's essentially what she's saying. And another key is that the personality behind the business not be the actual product. Now let's think about that for a second. I guess that sometimes that could work. For example, Oprah. I think she's a perfect example of the personality actually being the product. Another example may be Martha Stewart. Of course, when she had her stock trade problems a couple of years ago, there was some question about whether the company would continue with her name attached to it. So those are some of the things to think about. And in this particular case, featured in today's Wall Street Journal, the business owner who is the fitness instructor is creating a brand that is not attached to her name. Her actual brand that she has trademarked is called Power Strike. And so she has actually created something where her business is not coupled with her name, so that I guess if there are any problems like that in the future, that she won't have to be so concerned with it, because her name is not attached to it, and it can continue even if something happens to her, the business can continue. So that's some of the stuff that we're going to be thinking about today. I hope you are all thinking ahead in terms of your business. I work with a lot of business owners, and sometimes, of course, I'm guilty of this myself. It's getting so caught up in the moment that I completely forget, that I have to be concerned about the future and where my business is going and how it's going to get there and what's going to happen if I'm no longer available and how are the assets going to be distributed and what if my children are old enough to run the business but they don't want to? I guess it certainly wouldn't do any good to leave the business to them under those circumstances. What would I do? Maybe I would sell it. Of course, the number of options is absolutely endless, but the key is to be able to think about these things before they become an issue, before they become a crisis, so that you can actually move forward and, with confidence and with a great deal of unconcern about some of the problems that can arise, because you know you have a plan in place to take care of them. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, Diedre Wachbrit of the Wachbrit Law Offices in California is going to be joining us. Diedre is an expert at estate planning for small businesses and families, and the information that she's going to provide is going to be really wonderful. So get out your notepads and your pens and get ready to take some notes. And we'll also open up the phone lines and give that number for you to call in toll-free to ask Diedre your questions. This is Donna Maria, the Lifestyle CEO Show. Don't touch that mouse. We'll be right back.
Why is everyone listening to GlobalTalkRadio.com? Because it's the future of talk radio. Every day, more and more people are finding Internet radio as not just an alternative media, but as a replacement to traditional AM and FM broadcast stations. Internet radio offers a wider variety of programs, convenient on-demand listening that meets your schedule, and fewer commercial interruptions. And GlobalTalkRadio.com is already leading the way by matching this content with a highly targeted Internet audience. GlobalTalkRadio.com offers its listeners one of the widest programming varieties on the Internet, from business and finance to self-improvement, paranormal, health, literature, romance, politics, and more. There are also opportunities for prospective hosts who would like to host their own weekly or one-time talk shows. Want to learn more? Check us out at www.globaltalkradio.com and see the future of talk radio today.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Lifestyle CEO Show. Of course, I'm your host, Donna Maria, and like I promised you, I've got a great treat for you today. Diedre Wachbrit is here from the law offices of Wachbrit Law Offices in California, and Diedre is a renowned expert on the topic of family and estate planning for small businesses. She has a lot of experience doing this, and she's not just any old attorney. She is an attorney who spends almost all of her time on this issue, and we are so excited to have her here today to share some of her expertise.
Welcome you so much, Donna. I'm delighted to be on the phone, and I hope I can be very helpful to the listeners. I'll do my very best.
Well, I'm sure you will, and I certainly know that from personal experience, having talked with you before on the Internet, which is where I found you, and also having some personal conversations with you. Let's just start off by, if you could describe exactly what estate planning is, and what does a person like you do to help a small business owner plan their estate?
I'd be happy to. Estate planning is really the process of making sure that if you can't control your assets and your health care and other things that are very important to you, like who raises your children, that your instructions are known and followed about how those things are managed. So in estate planning, we avoid taxes, we avoid probate, we avoid guardianship of children going to the wrong person, we avoid medical decisions being made in court like Terry Schiavo. The idea is really just to keep control where it belongs with the person who has the right to make decisions about themselves. Now, when you have a business owner, especially a business owner who's trying to achieve a lifestyle and has other interests and family, it's really important to think about how that business is going to be managed so that the children or other beneficiaries get as much value from it if you die, and so that if you are temporarily unable to manage it, say a car accident or something, when you recover, your business is still there and still running.
You know, it's so interesting to talk about this. As I was sharing with listeners before our first break, there's an article that addresses this topic in today's Wall Street Journal. In the small business section, there's an article about a man with several children, and he's trying to decide how to plan his estate. And his chief question is whether to include all of his children in the estate plan as far as the business is concerned, or only just include some of them, those some being the ones who are actually participating in the business. So I think we can see just at the outset what a significant issue this can be, not just in terms of business planning, but when it's a closely held company held by family members, that it can also impact the entire family unit and the structure going forward.
Absolutely. That's true of all estate plans, but in estate plans that involve family businesses where some kids are operative and some are not, this tends to be the most important and the hardest to handle issue because parents don't want to play favorites. In fact, if they do inadvertently, it can destroy the kids' relationship with each other, and the cousins will no longer get to play together, and the whole family is ripped apart. So parents don't want to play favorites, but it's very hard to ensure business continuity when you have some kids working in the business and some not. There are solutions, so it's not a lost cause. You can use life insurance. You can use non-voting business interests. You can have family meetings. There are solutions, but if parents do not address this while they are still alive, the choices that will be available to their kids are dramatically reduced.
And we definitely want to try and give them as many options as they can. Let's talk about that. Let's just take a small business, and I know that the specifics are going to vary from case to case, but are there a few essential tools or a few things that we should think about, no matter what kind of business we have, that everyone should think about in terms of addressing this issue? And let's assume, Diedre, that most people listening on today's show are not at all familiar with all of the details associated with this. Let's be as basic as possible, if that's okay.
Okay. Well, the first thing that everybody who owns a business needs to ask themselves is, what will happen with my business if I am incapacitated for a short period of time? So imagine that you were in a car accident or stranded in Tibet on a vacation. For some reason, you didn't return to the office when you were expected. What would happen to your business in the time it took for you to get back? And most people will answer that question with something like, gosh, I don't know. But it's worthwhile to think about it, because you can put some incapacity or disaster planning in place simply by talking with key employees, if you have employees, or other family members, and signing a document that gives them the authority to carry on if they need to.
And would that document be something short of a will? I mean, in other words, I guess in the will you would distribute whatever assets there are or set forth some kind of plan, but let's just say it's not to that point, which is what you're describing. What kind of document is that?
It depends on your state, but generally you'll be using either a trust or a power of attorney or some sort of powers within your actual business operating document, whether that's a corporation or an LLC or a partnership or some combination of those.
Okay, so you would, let's just say, for example, if you're operating as a corporation and you have your corporate bylaws set up, you can always amend those to take care of this issue if you didn't think about it when you drafted them.
That's exactly right, yes.
Okay, so it's not as though if you already have a partnership agreement or if you already have a LLC or whatever set up that you can't go back and talk with the people that have ownership interest and a vote in the entity to talk with them about this issue, and then everyone make a decision about what should happen.
Absolutely, yes. That's exactly what you would do. If you're the sole owner, it's obviously much easier. If you're not the sole owner, though, I would encourage you to approach this as something that all of the co-owners need to address, so that it's not you demanding something for your family, it's everybody doing something to ensure the continuity and health of the business.
That's right. So if you have partners or members in your LLC or whatever, you all should come together and agree on what should happen in everyone's case.
Exactly, yes.
And then if you're a sole proprietorship, of course, there's other issues associated with thinking about setting your business up as a formal corporate structure. But in the meantime, can you just write a letter and or some sort of document that you have notarized and share it maybe with your spouse, your significant other, or grown children, and say, if something happens, before I get my business to the point where it's formalized, here's what I want to happen?
Yes and no. You can use a single document, something like a power of attorney, but I don't advise people to do this on their own, because if it's not properly formalized through notarization or witnesses, and if it's not carefully drafted, you could end up with something that's either completely invalid or gives too many or too few powers to the people that you want to have involved. So I would encourage people to consult with someone local who understands this stuff. I know that small business people tend to be do-it-yourselfers, and we have to wear a lot of different hats. I have a small firm as well. There are about 10 of us. But there are places where expert guidance really is worth it. For me, that's in accounting and even other legal areas like employment issues. So I would encourage small business people not to spend their time trying to learn about powers of attorney law. They should spend their time on their business and hire somebody who's an expert.
Yeah, and let's point out, too, Diedre, how important it is to find, number one, as you said, an expert, but someone who is familiar with the way the estate planning and probate laws in your particular state and maybe even in your county or city actually work, right?
Yes, absolutely. And I can list a couple of resources for your listeners, if that would be helpful.
Do.
Okay. First of all, I have available on my website a family business survival guide, which if you go to my website and request it, will be emailed to you immediately as an Adobe Acrobat file.
Okay, and that's Wachbrit, WACHBRIT.com.
That's exactly right. Thank you. Wachbrit.com.
All right.
And it's the Family Business Survival Guide.
Okay.
And then if folks are looking for an attorney, the premier organization for estate planning attorneys is called Wealth Counsel. And if you go to wealthcounsel.com, counsel spelled like an attorney, COUNSEL, wealthcounsel.com. They have a member search, and people can find local attorneys. Of course, the best way is word of mouth from someone knowledgeable, like your CPA or your financial planner.
Yeah, I find that those are great resources, your CPA, your accountant, or the person that helps you actually set up your corporate structure.
Yes.
They often come into contact with those people from time to time doing what they do. Okay, so let's talk. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, I want to talk a little bit about the issue of children. And, of course, everything is dynamic with kids. They start out little, and then they get older, and as they get older, are there ways that we can, from a formal nature, allow them to take part in the distribution of the assets of our company even before they become adults? We're going to talk about that and some other issues when we come back from our break. This is the Lifestyle CEO Show. We'll be right back with Diedre Wachbrit.
Want to stay on top of what's new in the radio industry? Sign up for a free subscription to the Future of Talk Radio, available exclusively to listeners of globaltalkradio.com, and find out what's new in the world of online radio. Listeners can find out about new shows and special guests. People with something special to offer can find out how to become a guest and how to prepare for an interview. And prospective hosts will find a valuable resource for everything from planning the new program to selecting topics and guests, recouping expenses by selling advertising, and more. Sign up today for your free subscription to the Future of Talk Radio by visiting www.globaltalkradio.com and learn about the future of talk radio today.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Lifestyle CEO Show. We are on the air today with noted estate planning attorney Diedre Wachbrit from the law offices of Diedre Wachbrit. And for those of you who want to go check out her website, you need to get over there at Wachbrit, that's spelled WACHBRIT.com. Diedre's office is located in California, so for anyone who's interested in getting some expert assistance in that particular state, Diedre can help you, and she's also mentioned she's got some free resources on her website. And Diedre, you mentioned another website, wealthcounsel.com, where people across the country can go to find people. So thank you for that. Now let's talk a little bit about how to deal with children and their ages, and at what point in time, like my children are 2 and 4, so I've got some.
I'm amazed you have time for a radio show.
Well, let's just talk in generalities about some of the things that people can be concerned about. Let's maybe pick a time frame, which would probably be very critical, and that's the time frame when the children are interested in the business and they're also becoming adults.
I would encourage people to bring their children in as gradually as they and their children are comfortable with. I would not give ownership interests away, absent some other compelling reason, until you really know that that child is going to stick with that business as a key employee for life. Mm-hmm. There are some exceptions when you're doing estate tax planning or asset protection, but absent those exceptions, you really want to keep control. And the way to give your kids control is by giving them responsibilities, perhaps making them officers of the corporation or the LLC, but not actually giving them stock until you're sure that that's not going to come back and bite you.
Okay, because I know as you know, lifestyle CEOs, and I'm sure people that you work with, you know, it's everyone's desire, one if there are many desires, in starting a business to be able to create an asset that they can pass to their children.
Absolutely.
So that their kids have options, you know, even as young adults outside of, you know, working at the local mall or whatever, to generate some income.
Yes, and so estate planning has to be a lifelong process, especially for business owners, because if something were to happen to you, Donna Marie, right now while your children are only 2 and 4, they would not be able to step into the business. And whether it could be maintained for them until they reached adulthood is something that you would have to think carefully about. If it couldn't, then the right estate plan for you now would involve selling your business as quickly as possible to preserve the value. Now, for another client of mine whose children are grown, his son is the CEO of his business, and he is starting to retire, this client. So in this case, we are actually giving portions of the corporation to that adult son who's working in the business, and his estate plan reflects those issues around which child is going to have the business and which child is going to have some other assets to make it up. And then there's everything in the middle. So the estate plan really needs to change with the age and involvement of your children, as well as with the nature of your business.
And this should be done in conjunction with general estate and family planning as well.
Absolutely. They are inextricably bound. You cannot do one without the other and still have the result that you would want.
Yeah, so one of the key questions for people to ask when looking for someone to help them with this is whether they're qualified really to do both. You have to have not only knowledge of estate planning in general in terms of family and heirs and probate and, you know, who gets, you know, all the regular assets like the house and all that stuff, but also who gets the corporate assets, and those can be very different things. So am I right that you would want to make sure that you ask in advance whether the attorney that you're talking with can handle both?
Yes, and the term that estate planning attorneys use to describe the business planning we're talking about is business succession planning. Who is going to succeed to your business when you can no longer manage it? So you want an estate planning attorney who is comfortable with business succession planning. Okay. Now, I'm assuming that you believe that there is some value to your business. If you are just starting out and everything in your business is your personal effort, like, for example, a life insurance agent who is receiving commissions, but if something were to happen to them, it's very clear what's going to happen to those commissions. They don't have much control. In that case, they might be fine with someone who's not experienced in business succession planning. But if you have something that you want that can be maintained by other people or sold and would have a value for other people, you do want that specialty.
Okay, so let's talk then about a lot of my listeners who I know have they're independent contractors for like direct sales or network marketing companies, and they actually maybe have signed an agreement that says they can have home parties or whatever. So are those, you know, are those kinds of things that someone generally running their business maybe as a sole proprietorship can think about setting up as well?
Yeah, yes, I would encourage those folks to look in their agreement and see whether there is something there that can be inherited. I know that in some cases your child would be allowed to take over your book of business, but they may have to have licenses or they may have to go to some training program. In other cases, the entire thing reverts back to the company and there's nothing there for you to pass on. And still others, there is a residual income flow that you can give to your kids and that you want to make sure is directed in the right way. So you need to look at your unique arrangement with that licensing company.
That's a really good point, because the third option that you just talked about is residual in the sense that if the commissions continue to come, they would become a part of your estate.
Exactly right. And if you have a substantial estate, the tax on those residuals can be horrendous absent planning.
Right. And so then you're your heirs would be stuck with having basically residual income that may not amount to much.
Exactly.
But for people who are actually own the business, that's an asset that they can think about, of course, obviously continuing, not just in the form of residual income in the sense you just talked about, but also in terms of, a business continuing where, just like any other business continues, absent from your efforts to continue anything, and the income continues, the products continue to sell or whatever.
Yes, I have seen financial planners make business plans where their children become licensed as financial planners, and they form a sort of partnership with their children so that if they die or become incapacitated, their children simply step in and take over all those accounts. So it's not exactly a legal ownership issue. It's more of a strategic issue. But absent the planning, all those accounts would simply revert to the parent company or languish and be abandoned.
That's a really, really excellent point for people to remember, that we have, until it actually happens, we have options.
Yes, absolutely.
When it happens, other things kick in that aren't reversible when you're not here to control them.
Yes, and what you want in an advisor, in the attorney who's going to advise you in this planning, is someone who can show you expanded options. You don't want to go in and say, I listened to a radio show and I heard this attorney, Diedre Wachbrit, say I need a power of attorney, so make me a power of attorney. Right. You can do that, and that's better than nothing. But to really get the maximum value of your expert's expertise, you should say something broader, like, this is my kind of business, and I want my kids to benefit as much as possible from it. What are my options?
Right. That's a really good point. Well, we're going to take our final break. You guys can call your questions or comment into Diedre at 800-773-0355. This is the Lifestyle CEO Show. We'll be right back.
You're listening to GlobalTalkRadio.com.
Welcome back to the Lifestyle CEO Show, everyone. We have got Diedre Wachbrit here, who is sharing information, tips, tools, and all kinds of things that we need to know to make sure that our business, if something happens to us, can continue to operate. And by the way, Diedre, I want to congratulate you on being nominated by Working Mother Magazine as one of 2006's best small companies.
Thank you, Donna Marie. We were really excited about that. Really excited.
We had another guest, Lisa from Stroller Strides, who was also nominated.
Oh, that's
and
wonderful.
That's an award that you receive because your workplace is women and family friendly. Is that right?
That's right. I am a mother just like you are. My kids are 6. I have twins. And I really, like I'm sure many of your listeners, started my business in order to be more available to them. I no longer wanted to do the demanding, traveling 5 days a week sort of career that I had before they were born. And so the business has always been family friendly from day one. That's its reason for existence, is helping families, both our employees and our clients.
And, I think that's really great. And I know, Diedre, that you have a passion for this as a mom who is working in a business that you own, but also that flexibility, which is so important. And that's one of the reasons why I think this show is so important on the estate planning topic, because until the crisis occurs, until your demise comes, or until some kind of disability or unplanned tragedy occurs, you have flexibility to take care of things. And so that's why I'm so excited that you're sharing this kind of information with us today.
Thank you. I think it is so valuable for people to take the time. I know it's hard to think about worst-case scenarios, and a lot of clients come into my office literally scared to face these issues. But we try to make them comfortable, and they find a tremendous sense of relief once they've addressed them. Because when you're thinking about who is going to make medical decisions for you, or who's going to manage your business, you know about the Terry Schiavo case. Right. You know how bad things can get. So why allow yourself to suffer thinking that the worst case might happen to you? You will feel so much better if you just face those issues and plan to have things go the way you want them to go.
Yeah. Now, Diedre, let's say that you're a small business owner and you have a very, very, not only a limited budget, but also your asset hasn't really grown yet, and it may not have grown to the point where you feel comfortable investing however much it might cost to get this top quality advice because the business itself maybe can't support that yet. Are there small things that you can do to get started, to start taking care of these issues so you're not looking at the whole mountain, you can just kind of climb it step by step?
The absolutely most important thing for people to figure out, regardless of where they are in the estate planning process, the beginning or dealing with very sophisticated planning, is the people that you trust. You need to choose people to make medical decisions for you, to make business decisions for you, to take care of your children. And if you are just not prepared to commit those decisions to paper, at least have those conversations. In that case, the court is going to make the ultimate decision for you, but if all your friends and family are unified about what you wanted, the court will tend to defer to them. You saw in the Shivo case, the husband and parents were not unified. And if you find this is the case in your life, there's probably no way around doing some serious written legal planning. But if your friends and family can get behind you and understand your wishes and be in accord, then when it comes time for the court to make decisions for you, they will be able to speak up on your behalf, and there should be some unanimity.
And that's a really good point, because the emotions that kick in when somebody is disabled or when someone passes away can often change the past perception of what has gone on. So what you're describing in terms of talking about it in front of people who can be witnesses.
Yes. And certainly you can write down your wishes. Don't think that they will necessarily be enforceable, but writing them down, as you said, people sometimes remember things differently. Writing them down will give your friends and family a reference point. They may not be able to show it to the court, and it may not be legally valid, but it will remind them of what you wanted.
So everybody can kind of all come together and at least have a document to look at so that whatever position people take, at least it's got to pass the red face test in light of what are your clear wishes.
Exactly. Yes, exactly so.
And so when you're setting up your planning, and let's say you have children who may not be of age, but they're certainly old enough to understand, is one thing that you can do to kind of get this process going is to ask your children, maybe they're teenagers, how do you feel about this business? If you've watched me run it for the last 10 or 15 years, how do you feel about it? Would you like to play an active role in it? Would you like to have a summer job? Is that one of the things you can do to kind of get a feel for your young adults' propensity for being interested in being involved in the business as it grows?
Certainly find ways for them to become gradually more and more involved, starting with summer jobs. My kids, when they're in the office, they're only 6, but we've given them the title Office Page, and they deliver things from one person to another for a quarter per delivery. So, be creative and find ways to involve your kids in the business. Teenagers are probably not prepared to make a commitment one way or the other, but if you're listening to them, you'll have a sense of whether they're being involved in the business is a real possibility or whether it's something that they would not like to do at all.
And you talked briefly just now. I thought that was such a great thing. You pay them 25 cents to run a package of papers from one office to another, and you get tax benefits from that, right? Or your business does.
That's true. Up to I think it's $7,500 a year. Your children can be compensated at their own tax rate, which is probably lower than yours. Above that, if the kids are under 13 or 14. They'll be taxed at your rate. So you do have to check with your accountant.
Pretty good salary for a 6-year-old, if you
25 cents per delivery.
Right. And if that's an expense of the business, then obviously it's a deductible expense in most instances, and so the business benefits as well as the children, as well as you, by having all that extra help around the office.
Yes, and they are just now getting to the point where they can file things alphabetically. And they can staple, although the stapling is not as consistent as an adult would do. So I try to be creative about finding ways to involve them. And when they get to the point where they're at college, I think I'll have a good sense of whether law school is something they want to consider.
Oh, yeah. Well, they'll have a good taste of it from watching you there. And what a great example to set as well, that you can pursue your chosen career path and also be available for your family and be a resource to others in the community, as well as for women who are looking for employment that work with you. And I know we've got to let you go, Diedre, but you have community workshops in your law offices. Is that right?
We do. In fact, we're having a series coming up just this week, so if anybody is in the Westlake Village area, they should please visit the website or call me at 866-WACHBRIT, WACHBRIT, and I would be happy to tell them about our upcoming seminars. We do them on estate planning, business planning, asset protection, and special needs planning.
And Westlake Village, is that Southern California?
It is. It's between LA and Ventura County.
Right, and these are free workshops, right?
Absolutely free.
All right. What a really great service. Well, thank you so much, Diedre, for taking the time to share business succession planning issues and estate planning issues with us. We really appreciate it, and I know you've got to run, so I want everybody to make sure you visit wachbrit.com for more information about Diedre's services and her free workshops. Thanks a lot, Diedre.
Thank you, Donna Marie, and I would just like to congratulate all you and your listeners on the very point you said. You know, even if there's no monetary value to your business because something happens to you before it gets going or you have a contract that prevents that, by having a business that works with family, you're setting an example that many of us didn't have, not only with our mothers, but anywhere in the community. So your impact is broader than your own immediate family. I think we're really changing the world, and I think we should congratulate ourselves for it.
Well, I certainly agree with you, and you've just started a whole other show right before you have to go. But it's so true, because you never know what opportunities are going to come for you, your family, or others unless you take those first tentative steps out there into the marketplace with your product or service.
That's right. So thank you for having me, Donna Marie. It was a real pleasure.
You're welcome. Everyone, we have just been so blessed today with the information provided by Diedre, and her topic of expertise is in the area of estate planning, but I know you guys know that the Lifestyle CEO Show has been around for a long time, almost 6 months now, and we have lots of shows that feature lots of experts on a variety of different topics. So I want to encourage you to visit lifestyleceo.com, where the most recent show is featured on our homepage, and we have a radio show page, if you just click on radio, where you can go and listen to all the shows going all the way back to October, and we have been on weekly. We've had experts in franchising. We've had experts in intellectual property and trademark. We've had celebrities like Paula Deen from the Food Network's show, as well as Warren Brown and Jack Canfield from Chicken Soup, and all these people have provided a wealth of information and suggestions and tools that you can use to grow your business. I also want to direct you to the Handmade Beauty Network website at handmadebeauty.com, because we have got the greatest business growth conference coming up this summer. On July 15th, this summer in Secaucus, New Jersey, we are sponsoring the 2006 Business Growth Conference, where we are going to have speakers discussing what I consider to be the core 4 principles of a successful business. Number 1, how to conduct effective media outreach to get the buzz going for your business. Now, I know that everyone wants to be in some magazine or on some television show that can propel their business into the stratosphere. But the bottom line is that there are very distinct and specific steps to take in order to do that. And goodness knows you don't want to end up on a worldwide syndicated talk show if your business is not ready to handle the orders that might come in as a result of that. But we have got an expert in Marla Russo at Bella PR in New York City. She's a publicist, and her PR firm has helped lots of women-owned business get the buzz going about their businesses, and they've been featured in every magazine that you can imagine, both online and offline. And Marla is going to be with us to detail her tips for how to conduct effective media outreach on a shoestring budget. I'm going to be talking about creating and protecting intellectual property and making your brand recognizable and memorable in the marketplace. Lots of people are out there selling what you sell and offering what you sell, and you have to be aware of how to distinguish yourself in the marketplace and create intellectual property that can become an asset that can work for your business even when you're not there. We've also got the e-commerce diva who's going to share with us how to properly and efficiently use e-commerce to generate sales. Again, when you're not there at your website, when you're not actually doing the manufacturing, you want your website to work for you and to generate sales so that when you check your email again, you can see that you have generated revenue even when you have not actually been physically present. And isn't that one of the goals of small business owners and business owners everywhere? And last but certainly not least, how to hire and contract people to help you manufacture your products or run your business smoothly so you don't have to do everything yourself. Of course, that's pretty much how we all start out. But as business grows, if we get more customers and more recognition and more people interested in what we're doing, there's only so many hours in the day and we can't do everything. So we've got Chris Farella, an expert employment attorney, who's going to talk with us about how to go about setting up the kind of arrangements that you need to protect your recipes and other things, your secrets to doing business while you're also growing. This is Donna Maria and the Lifestyle CEO Show. I hope you've enjoyed us today. In the meantime, break all the rules, build your own corporate ladder, and create the life you love. See you next week.
You're listening to GlobalTalkRadio.com.